Hello everybody, in today's routine we are going to be tackling the internal knees menu from the Pain Free by Pete Egoscue book. So this is going to be the routine for you. If you are somebody, when you look in the mirror or look down at yourself, you notice that one or both of your kneecaps spin inwards. We call this internal knees. We call it internal femurs because your kneecaps are really a reflection of what your hips are doing and your femurs. So think of the knees as being the window to the hips. And therefore, if you've got internal knees, it means you've got internal thigh bones, femurs. You may have also heard this be called femoral anteversion as well. We are going to do a series of exercises today that are aimed at untwisting that leg, which is going to take pressure off the knee. It's also really going to help open your upper body and change your lower back and things like this. So a lot of this menu is about reconnecting the knee to the hip. So expect lots of shin burning today, hip burning today, maybe some wobbling today and things like that. We are going to need, equipment-wise, something like my chair here. So we are going to be doing an exercise called wall Stork, where we stand against the wall and we put our foot on it. So you want it to be quite firm, so it's not, your foot's not going to be wobbling around, and you want it to be that it's keeping your knee at hip height. That'll make sense when we do it, but you'll just need something that's like not too high, not too low, not too wobbly. You're also going to need your two cork yoga blocks, or just two foam blocks. I can't get my words out today. And I would also recommend having a cushion or two to hand, as well as a wall. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to start off with standing at a wall with a block. So I'm putting the block in between my thighs like this, above the knees, not too high. I'm bringing my feet back towards the wall. I'm going to start my timer now because we're here for 8 minutes. So I'll start talking you through the cues as we go. Lots of you will already know this exercise too. We're making sure that our feet are truly on train track parallel. So we want to mark parallel between the second and the third toes, in alignment with the ankle joint. So just make sure that you're not measuring parallel from your big toes. If anything, you're going to feel a little bit pigeon-toed when you're doing this properly. So the middle of your second and your third toes, your ankle joint, your knee joint, and your hip joint are all in alignment. We're keeping our heels back against the wall, we're keeping our calves back against the wall, and we're keeping our bottom back against the wall as well. The most important thing in this exercise is that we're focusing on the bottom upwards. Lots of people get very distracted by what their arms and their neck and their shoulders are doing. And what they do is they pull their arms backwards to the wall, but in doing so, they flare their rib cage upwards. If you're flaring your rib cage, you're not going to change your hips. So what we need to do is actually bring the bottom of the back of the rib cage back against the wall. What that will do is make you feel really hunched in your upper body. You're going to feel like you're doing it wrong, but the irony is that when you are hunched, that's when you're doing it properly. Because what we do is we hide our hunchy shoulders by flaring our rib cage up. So when we reduce and remove that compensation, it highlights the truth to us. And posture is all about admitting the truth to ourselves, taking stock of reality, and therefore we're able to unpick these movement patterns that we don't even know are etched in our muscles and etched in our brain. We're keeping the weight even through both of our feet, and we're going to squeeze the block inwards with our inner thighs. So by squeezing that block inwards, we are activating our adductors, our inner thigh muscles. And our adductors connect onto our pelvis and onto our knees. So by doing this, we're kind of changing our pelvic tilt slightly, as well as changing the alignment through the femur down into the knee joint. You're trying to keep your belly relaxed. You're trying to breathe in and out of your nose, just noticing if you feel like you're veering to one side or the other. If you're somebody who's prone to hyperextending your knees, just make sure that the back of your knees are not touching the wall. So some of you here are going to lock your knees backwards, and what will happen then is you'll probably feel like You'll actually be able to feel the back of your knee touching the wall, but you'll probably feel that more of your calf then touches the wall. If anything, keep a light contact with the wall with your calf. Focus more on your ankles and your bottom. So hyperextension of the knee occurs when we're compensating. It's another compensation, just like the flared rib cage. And knees compensate when ankles and hips are not doing their jobs properly. What we're looking for whilst we're here is, yes, we're going to be squeezing our inner thighs, so we'll be feeling our inner thighs. And you also then might start feeling your glutes, your bum muscles. You're not actively contracting your bum muscles, but you might notice that they switch on the more that you do this squeeze with your thighs. And that's because those adductors help to tilt the pelvis under slightly posteriorly, and that posterior pelvis activates the glutes, but you're not actively squeezing your glutes, if that makes sense. You are actively squeezing the block, and that in turn leads to an automatic activation of the glutes. You might start feeling the arches of your feet cramping. You might feel your calves kind of burning, or your ankles burning, your shins burning. The more that you're feeling in your lower body, the more you know you are doing it well. So if you are feeling a whole bunch of stuff happen from your pelvis downwards, it means that you're doing it well enough. If you're feeling lower back pain, you are probably lifting your rib cage. So draw the rib cage down, allow your shoulders and your arms to slump. Don't focus on the upper body position. What you will find with this exercise is that the more that you do it, both today, but with repetition over time, you'll notice that your shoulders just automatically start drawing themselves backwards. So as the joints further downstream become more functional and more aligned, everything further upstream also becomes more functional and more aligned. So a lot of the time, we don't want to be correcting our upper body position, because by doing so, we are compensating. Allow that relaxation in the upper body. Breathing in and out of the nose, trying to keep the weight even through both of our feet. Relaxing the belly, maintaining that squeeze on the block, not locking our knees backwards. If you have it in you, but don't worry if it's too many cues, see if you can squeeze your quads to lift your kneecaps towards your knees, your hips, sorry, but don't squeeze your quads if that then means that your knees buckle backwards. I'd rather you keep a little bit of softness in the knees just to prevent any hyperextension from occurring. We've got about another 2.5 minutes here. Exercises like this can be a real kind of journey. So they start off maybe really dominant in foot sensation. Maybe today or maybe the future, it becomes much more of like a calf, shin type sensation. Maybe later on it then becomes very like hip and pelvic dominant. And this is just your alignment changing over time. And that might happen today over the course of 8 minutes, but it could also take 8 weeks for that change to happen, just depending on what other posture exercises you're doing, but what else you're doing like in your life as well. So I'm starting to feel a little bit shaky through my calves. I can feel like my right calf working a bit harder. I'm getting a sense of like a bit more space through the front of my hips, which is nice. I definitely find it difficult to maintain that squeeze with my knees. So I tend to lose that connection. So I have to keep reminding myself. 1.5 minutes here. Upper body relaxes. No forcing, no yanking or cranking. Keeping the bottom of the rib cage against the wall, even if that makes our arms and our shoulders and our head feel slumpy. That is the truth of your posture being revealed to you. So don't cheat with your rib cage. Breathing nice and deeply, in and out of the nose, maintaining relaxation. And this is a really good exercise that you can do, like watching TV. Sometimes I do this when I'm meditating and things like that. But the longer that you can hold this exercise for, the more benefits it's going to yield for you. And that pretty much goes for any posture exercise. The longer that you do something for, the more chance it gives your muscles to all like reconfigure so that your joints can change alignment and your bones can reposition. Starting to get like a tingly warmth through my right hand now, which is nice. And that's telling me that my right shoulder, which is probably my postural deviation that annoys me the most, because my right shoulder is so forwards because of everything I do with my right hand, I can actually feel that that's like starting to pull backwards now, which is nice. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So we'll keep the blocks close to hand because we are going to need them later on. But this is where we're going to bring our chair into the equation. So you just want to make sure that you've got something that when you put your leg on it like this, the knee is more or less at hip height. You don't want the knee to be too high, you don't want the knee to be too low, and the thing that you're putting your foot on is quite balanced and not wobbles from side to side. What we're going to do, and I'm going to start with my left leg up like I just did, I want us to get into the same position that we were just in. So focus on that parallel alignment of the feet. And this is a little competition for you here. Do not shift your right foot. So lots of you, as you lift your left foot up, you're going to notice that you want to stick your right foot outwards. And that's the right foot compensating because you don't have enough strength in this standing leg. So we don't want that leg to shift. We want the middle of the second and the third toe joint being in alignment with the ankle, being in alignment with the knee, being in alignment with the hip. We're really making sure here that our pelvis doesn't swing out to the side. Could be either direction, but it's more likely that it's going to shift to the right-hand side now. So we want to make sure that that pelvis is in alignment with both of our hips. My toe, my ankle, my knee, and my hip on my left-hand side are also in alignment. And I'm making sure that the ankle is underneath my knee. All of the other points still apply here. It's just that my left leg is doing something different. So we're not buckling backwards into our knee there. We're keeping a little softness, but we are keeping the calf at the wall. 3 minutes here, off we go. So we're spreading our toes and we're keeping them like relaxed, so they're not clawing like this. We're pinning into our big toe joints on both sides. So we're using the big toe joints, the ball of the foot here, for support. We're pushing down into the big toe joints, feeling how that activates muscles for us. The back of the calf and the ankle stay at the wall on that standing leg, and my bottom stays at the wall on that standing leg. I'm not forcing the knee backwards. I'm squeezing this quad, this front thigh muscle, to lift the kneecap, not to push the kneecap backwards. On my left foot, I'm pushing down into the chair to help me gently smush my pelvis and my lower back to the wall here. As I push down into that left leg, I can kind of feel like my hamstring activating into my glutes. Once again, we're not flaring that rib cage up, trying to get the head backwards. We're keeping the rib cage so that it's down against the wall, even if that means that the shoulders are flaring. We're keeping our shoulders and our hips stacked above one another, making sure that the pelvis doesn't drift out to the side. And the other thing to be really cautious of here, more likely on this bent leg, is that you haven't lifted the pelvis up towards your waist. So some of you are going to be hip hiking here to compensate. Put your hands on the bony bits of your pelvis, or look at yourself in a mirror, or take a picture or something, and draw that hip down so that the hips are level if you're looking at yourself front on. Breathing, so just still breathing in and out of the nose. Relaxation in the upper body, lots of work in the lower body, something slightly different happening from side to side. So in my opinion, this exercise is more concentrated on that standing leg. Because we focused on the alignment and because we've got that quad engagement without it buckling the knee backwards, it's a really good one for untwisting the knee. Again, you might be feeling like all sorts of stuff happening through that standing leg. And as long as it's like work and wobble and cramps and all that type of stuff from here downwards, good. On this leg, you'll probably most likely feel stuff kind of in the upper leg and into the hip as well. One hip in flexion, one hip in extension. It's a really good exercise for balancing off the pelvis as well as realigning the leg. You've got just over 30 seconds left here. We're going to swap legs. Keep the toes relaxed, pin into the floor, making sure that we're not hyperextending the knee. Everything, if someone's looking at you front on, all of your joints are aligned. So we don't have one hiked pelvis and we don't have the pelvis off out to the side. Those two things, as well as that foot shift, are the most common compensations here. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, same thing, other side. I won't do any cueing particularly, I'll just give you a second to get into it. So on both legs, toes, ankles, knees and hips in alignment, making sure that the hip isn't hiking, making sure that the pelvis isn't swinging off to the side. Off we go. Toes relaxed and spread, pinning into the big toe joints on both feet, ankle underneath knee on that bent leg, upper body relaxed, bottom of the rib cage at the wall, arms, hands, shoulders, relaxing too. Not buckling backwards in that standing leg, standing knee, squeezing the quad to lift it towards the hip. And on this side, my tendency, and I can feel I'm doing it now, is I have a hip hike. So my right hip is higher than my left. So I'm going to just focus on dropping that right hip. Oh my gosh, when I do that, the back of my right leg switches on so much more. So the back of my right, by pushing my right hip down, but without allowing my pelvis to shift to the left-hand side by doing so, this right leg is suddenly having to work a lot harder. So that was what my body was avoiding by compensating like that. We're looking to find these little subtle pockets where our body is having to work in a new way. It's these like nooks and crannies that we don't realize that we're avoiding because our brain becomes so accustomed to our particular manner of compensation. But then by these little subtle adjustments, you find it, and then the next time you know what you're feeling out for. And then by strengthening this area of dysfunction for me, it means that that compensation is going to happen less, and that's going to start becoming my new normal. I am so much more wobbly through this side. So both of my calves are kind of juddering. It's so tiring, and I can feel how my body is trying to lean me away from that work. So if you're noticing that, like, give yourself a break, but come back into it. You're trying to find that area where it is really hard work. So for me, on my left leg, it's much less about the standing leg, and it's really hard work to kind of keep that right leg in the position that it needs to be in. Kind of upset that we've still got nearly a minute left to go, but it will be doing me good, I am sure. So in these moments, it's about relaxing your face, relaxing your brain, relaxing the breath, relaxing the arms. Oh my gosh, my right leg. I'm gonna do a little bit of a lean away just to give myself a little break. I'm gonna come back into it. So remember, if someone's looking at you front arm, your hips are balanced from side to side, and you haven't swung the pelvis out sideways as well. Toes, ankles, knees, and hips, and both legs in alignment with one another. My chair, I don't know if you can see it, is vibrating because of my leg vibrating. Oh my God! Ah! I'm getting full on wobble. Can you hear and see that? Oh! I have not had a response like that for a long time. That's very exciting for me. So this can come to one side. We don't need the chair again now. And we are going to do just like a little kind of reset exercise, cats and dogs or cat-cow, depending on what you know it as. We're going to do 2 minutes here. So we'll go now and I'll start walking you through the cues. So wrists underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. The tops of your feet are trying to touch the floor, so don't allow them to come up. We're trying to cramp the arches of our feet by pinning them down. Off we go. So from the pelvis, I'm initiating the movement. I roll it forwards, so I'm contracting the lower back. I sink into my spine. I sink into my shoulder blades. I gently lift my head up whilst pulling my shoulder blades together and back and down behind me, and I'm trying to contract the lower back by rolling the pelvis forward. From there, I squeeze my glutes and I roll up into this C shape. Sorry, I would have gone really loud then. I'll quieten down. And then we roll through it. As you do this exercise, just make sure that you are not shifting your torso forwards and backwards. So throughout both directions, your shoulders stay above your wrists and your hips stay above your knees. Lots of people here use this forwards, backwards shifting of the pelvis, of the torso, to avoid the upward downward movement of the pelvis. So the reason that we're doing this is we're creating balance and harmony through the pelvis, the rib cage, the spine, and the shoulder girdle. So with a balanced pelvis comes freer hips. And by having freer hips, we're going to have less internally rotated hips. Nice and slowly. Once again, you're trying to find those nooks and crannies through your spine and through your pelvis. You're not rushing. This is a labor of love. It's not a chore. You're so lucky that you're able to spend this time reconnecting with your body. I do like to have a little sideways twist sometimes because for me, the juicy bit comes from a little bit of a lateral twist like that. But yeah, this is more about the pelvic movement when it comes to the internal knees rather than anything else. Okay, that's time. I'm sorry to say that our torture continues. We are going to do an exercise called lying supine. I am going to have a cushion. This is quite a big cushion. I'm going to put that underneath my shoulder blades, not just my head. And I'm going to grab my block again, the medium way around, and it's going to go against the wall like this. The reason that I have the cushion underneath my shoulders is because I don't want my bottom of my rib cage to lift up off the floor. So it's the same principle as what we were doing against the wall. We don't want the rib cage lifting here because if the rib cage is lifting, we're compensating and the hips aren't going to stretch themselves out into extension. So when you look down at your body, you've got to ask yourself the question, can I see the bottom of my ribs so much so that I can't see my hips? And if your answer is yes, then what you need to do is prop yourselves up with enough cushions underneath the shoulder blades so that when you look down at your body, you can see your hips. If you only see your rib cage, you know that you are rib cage flaring, okay? So prop yourself up as much as you need. You might need 3 or 4 cushions if you have really tight hips and you're really flaring your rib cage. Okay, off we go because we have a torturous 5 minutes here. So I have got my ankles or the bottom of my heels against the wall. I'm pulling the tops of my feet back towards me. So by the tops of my feet, I mean the tops of my feet, not just my toes. Some of you are going to have the whole length of your feet against the wall and you're going to be pulling your toes back towards you, but you're not pulling the feet. So we're looking to close up the front of the ankle joint, not just flex the toes. I'm squeezing inwards through the center of both of my feet into the block. And as I do that squeeze inwards with the block with my feet, it activates those same muscles that we woke up in that first exercise, the inner thighs, which are feeling a little bit shaky. When I look down at my feet, I've got to make sure that the inside edge of my feet is not closer to me than my outside edge of my feet. So make sure you're not scooping your big toe joints back towards you. We are looking here to do a range of movement called dorsiflexion, but if our feet are dysfunctional in dorsiflexion, we will supinate our feet instead as a compensation, and you're going to notice that you're scooping your big toes towards you. As you pull the outside edges of your feet towards you more, you'll probably notice the outside edges of your calves wake up more, and it may also then twist your knees inwards more. So that's why your brain doesn't want you to do that, because it already knows you've got internally rotated knees. And by doing that, pulling the outside edges of the feet back towards you, it highlights those internally rotated knees. But it comes back to that truth telling, just like the rib cage flare earlier on. So if we're always hiding our internal knees through compensation at the foot, like supination, we never tackle the internal knees. The foot position here is crucial. It doesn't matter if your knees roll inwards a lot. What will happen is the more work, the more wobble, the more burning that happens through the fronts of your shins, through your hips, etc. here, you will start to notice over time, maybe today, maybe the next time you do it, that the knees start to unravel themselves. This is one of my absolutely favorite, I mean, it's awful because it's so hard, but absolutely favorite exercises for unraveling the knees. It really works very effectively. So much so that, like, sometimes in the past, because my right knee is really internal, So much so in the past, I've actually taken a picture of my knee like before and after I've done this for like 10 minutes. It's so amazing how much it changes. We've got just over 2 minutes left. Don't want to lie. Keeping the breath calm, in and out of the nose, into the diaphragm. Relaxing the hands, relaxing the shoulders. The bottom of the rib cage is on the floor. You need as many cushions as you need. Don't let your ego get in the way. You might need 4 cushions, you might need 5 cushions, whatever you need in order to keep that bottom of the rib cage grounded. There's probably going to be a little tiny arch in the lower back. So don't worry too much about your lower back. The focus is on the rib cage position. Once again, we're making sure that we're not hyperextending our knees. So we don't want the ankles to lift off the floor or the Achilles heels to lift off the floor. The Achilles heels lift off the floor, you are hyperextending your knees to compensate so that you don't get that dorsiflexion burn. If you are getting a hideous burn through the front of your shins, you know that you are doing this correctly. And that hideous burn through the front of the shins is probably also going to be combined with a wobble through the tops of the legs and through the hips, because the hips are starting to extend and release. The hips are adducting as you squeeze into that block. The feet are dorsiflexing. Remember, the toes are relaxed. It's the feet that are pulling backwards. The feet squeeze in, and we're making sure that the inside edges of your feet are not closer to you than the outside edges. Got just under a minute left here. I'm going to have a little tiny break before I start again. I can feel my shoulder blades rearranging themselves, which is so nice. This is a very good routine for me. Back of the neck stays long. Upper body, the more tired I get, I'm noticing that my left big toe really wants to compensate. Really try and keep your belly relaxed and obviously your breathing relaxed. Face stays zen. So if you're pulling loads of faces, scrunching up, clenching your teeth, you're compensating with your upper body. We're really trying to stay nice and relaxed here whilst the legs are on fire. I'd rather you take frequent breaks than compensate with your upper body. And that's time, you'll be pleased to know. The good news is that we have an entirely passive exercise now, so we can relax a little bit, hopefully. So I'm going to use my 2 yoga blocks here, and we're going to come to modified floor block. So for modified floor block, we're laying prone. Hopefully I'm not too long, should be all right. We're laying prone. My feet are pigeon-toed, so my big toe joints are touching. My ankles just hang out to the side. So actually here, funnily enough, we're actually putting our hips into internal rotation, but we are looking to extend the hips here, and this is about reducing rotation and things in the upper body. So we are putting the blocks on the medium height with the long thin edge up towards the ceiling. I am putting my elbows and my forearms on the blocks. My arms are in a cactus position. My hands are coming off the edge of the blocks. I'm going to untuck my rib cage so that I'm not in a rib cage flare. So I'm just making sure that my belly feels as long as my lower back and that I'm not compressing my lower back and very long through the belly. That means that the rib cage is twisting upwards. The hairline goes on the floor. 6 minutes here, off we go. So if you feel like your nose is being squished, then you have got your forehead on the floor rather than having your hairline on the floor. Hairline on the floor, it puts your nose out the way, it lengthens the back of the neck. We're relaxing the hands, we're relaxing the feet, we're relaxing the glutes. The only thing that's working hard here is our breath. So in and out of the bottom of the rib cage. In and out of the nose. Just keep relaxing your hands, because you will probably notice that your hands keep wanting to like fly upwards a bit. And if you're anything like me and you're stuck in a rib cage flare, if you just really untuck your rib cage, it feels like you're kind of flattening your sternum down to the ground. You'll get way more of a stretch through the front of your chest and shoulders. So in this exercise, the kind of common responses are foot cramp because of the foot position. That's a good thing. You may get hip stretching and anything really like stretchy wise going on through your shoulders and your upper back and your neck and your arms. It's a good thing. We don't want shoulder pain. We don't want neck pain. We don't want lower back pain. If anything like that is happening, then please stop. But stretching is good. Really using the breath to stretch out the bottom of the rib cage here. When you do this, you might want to get someone help you set up the first few times because you want to make sure that you are in a cactus position. So you don't want your elbows to be too close to your waist or too far away from your waist. You want to make sure that the wrists are in alignment with the elbows at 90 degrees, and that the armpit is at 90 degrees as well. Keep breathing. We've got over 2 minutes left here. Just observing how your body might be shifting. Maybe you're noticing that your hips become more level on the floor or your rib cage untwists and things like that. Keeping the back of the neck long. Remember the hairline goes on the floor, not the nose. Trying to make sure that the rib cage doesn't flare. Relaxing the hands. Some people in this exercise actually notice that their jaw starts chattering as it releases, which is a good thing too. So just relax your jaw. "45 seconds left. I'm really trying to change the angle of my head tilt to get as much of a stretch into my mid-back as I can, which feels nice. It's a challenge for me without flaring the ribs, so it's what my body needs. And that is time. So just be a little cautious coming out of that one. Because we've stretched our neck and opened our upper body, your head position can change. And when your head position can change, you can feel a little bit dizzy, a little bit hot, a little bit red. So just take your time with it. I'm not going to go through the cues so much this time, but we're going to do another 2 minutes of cats and dogs. So just remember, wrists underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips, tops of feet really push down to the floor, even if that gives you a cramp through your feet. Fingers spread nice and wide, off we go. So we lead from the pelvis in each direction. We sink into each vertebrae in our spine. We roll the shoulders back and down away from our ears as we gently look up. We squeeze our glutes to tuck our pelvis in the opposite direction, slowly and mindfully, really trying to find those nooks and crannies in our spine. We're not rushing. We're pushing the tops of our feet down towards the floor, trying to give ourselves cramp in the arches of the feet. As the pelvis rolls forwards into extension, we might feel the hips cramp a little bit into flexion. Just really trying to move the spine nice and slowly, not shifting that torso forwards and backwards. So you shouldn't notice that your hips move forward or backwards away from your knees, or your shoulders move forward and backwards away from your wrists. Really spread the fingers wide and ground through the palms. Stretch the palms of the hands out. If you're on your phone a lot or driving your car a lot or on your computer a lot or reading books a lot, highly likely you're going to have very clawed hands. Same goes for like guitar playing, piano playing, things like that. My left hip is getting really crampy here, which is a really nice sign that my pelvis is doing the same thing from side to side better. And therefore my left hip is switching on better because the pelvis is realigning itself. Glorious. We're never swinging in this one, so we're not using momentum or like tossing our head up and down. The pelvis drives the movement in both directions. The pelvis is moving up and down. It's not moving forwards and backwards. 3, 2, and 1. So our final exercise in this menu is Airbench. I am okay to do this without any shoes or socks on, but if you're on carpet, you might want to put some shoes on. Ideally not, because most people don't have barefoot shoes, and anything but a barefoot shoe is a slight heel, which changes the alignment of your joints. But I don't want you falling over, so that's more important. So we're going to come back against the wall like this. Once again, toes, ankles, knees and hips in alignment, making the toes probably slightly more parallel than you want. Really make sure here that your knees don't collapse in or collapse out. The femur is tracking in alignment with the knee, with the hip and with the middle of the toes. You might want to walk your ankles slightly further out than you think. We're going to slide down the wall, spread our toes wide. I'll start my timer now. Off we go. So we're spreading the toes wide. We're digging into the floor with the whole sole of our foot. So the ball of the foot, the big toe joints, the heels, they push down, they push forwards. And what that does is it gives you this traction backwards in your pelvis, in your hips, in your lower back, and in the bottom of your rib cage. So once again, we're not flinging those arms and shoulders back, because we'll probably lift our rib cage to do that. We're pushing downwards with the feet, allowing the upper body to hunch. We're really getting that kind of length through the mid and the lower back. In an ideal world, you want your hips parallel with your knees. I went to the gym this morning and I went to the gym 2 nights ago, and I've still got really bad DOMs in my quads. So this is going to be a struggle. We're going to do this for 2 minutes. Relax your face. Relax your breathing, relax your belly. I'm going to take a little break so you can kind of come up whenever you need to. You can stay higher if you need to. So if it's super, super challenging, you can be doing it, but just like more at this type of angle. And it's as time goes on, you want to go lower, but you're really using the feet to crush your lower back and pelvis against the wall, because that's where we're going to get so much lumbar, hip, pelvic alignment happen. Oh, hopefully goes without saying that your legs are going to be on fire. So you might feel you'll probably feel your quads the most, but you might feel your hamstrings as well. Some of you might feel things in your calves and feet. Sorry, I'm really struggling. I could barely walk today because of how domsy my legs were. And this is not what I need right now. Well, it is what my posture needs, but not my poor quad muscles. Oh, whew. Last 10 seconds, relaxed in the upper body. Oh, I can feel my lower back realigning, which is nice. 3, 2, 1. Oh, that right leg was starting to get really, really shaky again. So that is the end of our internal knees routine. I have to say, I think for how hard I found that and how wobbly my right leg got in Wolf Stork, that's what I'll be doing again. So I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again soon.